What's happening Instagram? Happy Wednesday. We have made it. We have made it to the 13th and final principle from Think and Grow Rich. How's everybody doing today? So, today, I'm going to share an idea with you that, as a matter of fact, most people are going to have no idea what I'm talking about. And that's all right, right? I'm going to be talking today about the sixth sense, right? This is the 13th and final principle from Think and Grow Rich. And Napoleon Hill even refers to the sixth sense as the door to the temple of wisdom. All right, so there's two major parts that I would like to share with you today. And the first part is I'm going to explain what the sixth sense is. And then additionally, I'm going to explain this other idea that's in the chapter. It's called building your character through auto suggestion. Right? This is a really interesting idea, and you know what? Let's get right into it, right? So, like I said, most people are not going to understand what I'm talking about today, and that's all right, right? I don't care. I'm saying it no matter what. The people that need to hear this will hear this, and if you don't understand it, right, it's because you haven't yet mastered the first 12 principles, right? Napoleon Hill mentions that, in order for you to really understand the power of the sixth sense, right? In order for you to really understand the power of the sixth sense, right, you must first understand and master the other 12 principles, right? What are those principles, right? Desire, faith, auto-suggestion, right? Specialized knowledge, imagination, organized planning. What's the others? Decision, persistence, the mastermind, right? The subconscious mind, the mystery of sex transmutation, and additionally upgrading your brain, right? You have to master these 12 principles to finally get to a place where you can, come to the sixth sense and have it make sense. What's happening, Kamal? So without further ado, I'm going to get right into the topic today, right? We're going to be talking about the sixth sense. And bear with me, this is such a bold conversation to have. But anyways, the sixth sense, right? What is it? It's the creative imagination, right? Napoleon Hill says that the sixth sense is the portion of the subconscious mind, also known as the creative imagination, right? So, for example, have you ever received an idea, a hunch, or a plan that seemed to pop into your mind from nowhere, right? What happened is, if you really think back to these moments, right, when you have received, this great idea, like that $1 million idea, right, what happened was your mind was probably stimulated to a higher level of vibration, a higher level of thinking, and all of a sudden that idea popped into your mind, and you're like, where did this idea come from, right? I may not be able to explain where it came from, but I will be able to explain, what happened was your sixth sense was so finely tuned that you actually were able to receive the answer. Okay? And here's a pretty bold statement. This is Napoleon Hill's words, not mine. Right? He says, it is through the sixth sense that infinite intelligence may and will communicate with you voluntarily. Right? It is through the sixth sense that infinite intelligence may and will communicate with you voluntarily. Right? I'm talking about, becoming a genius here. Right? In order for you to kick the sixth sense into gear, right, it's going to require you to become a genius. And all a genius is, in simple terms, is any individual who can elevate their level of thinking. Right? Any individual who knows how to stimulate their mind to elevate their level of thinking so that they can receive ideas, plans, or hunches that they could not receive at their baseline level of thinking. Right? It's going to require you to really master some of these principles in order for you to elevate your state of mind to that certain degree. But it's okay if it doesn't happen right away, right? When I first read this chapter, it made no sense to me. I was like, what are you talking about? But as time went on, you start to put the pieces together, right? So what I'm saying is this, right? For you to communicate with infinite intelligence, right? Here's a big thing. Right? When you pray for something, you're never going to get the thing that you pray for. And follow me here. Right? When you pray for something, it's not like what you pray for is just going to show up. But what is going to show up, right? What is going to show up is that idea, that hunch, or that plan. Right? It's going to require you to pull your weight on your end, right? It's going to require you to put in the work on your end. But, when you ask for the thing, the thing about questions, right? The thing about asking the right questions is this, right? There's always an answer to it, right? There's always the solution to your problem to it. Now it's going to require you to pull, like I said, put in the work yourself and follow through on that plan that you get. But what I'm saying is this, right? You're going to receive, when you have a finely tuned sixth sense, but you're going to receive the idea, you're going to receive the plan, and then it's going to require you on your end to follow through with that plan or idea. Okay, so it's you got to meet it halfway, is what I'm saying. But that's pretty cool, right? The idea that whatever you want is there. You just gotta let it pop into your mind, and then actually put in the work, right? Take the action to get it, right? Because there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, right? Where you can't just sit there and meditate. It's gonna come to me. No, that's not how it works, right? You gotta put in the work to go get it. But like I said, right, these principles from Think and Grow Rich help you understand the process. And have the faith that what you want is coming to you, right? So, like I said, it's really important that you master the other 12 principles, right? Like, because, I'm talking about the sixth sense. I'm talking about stimulating your state of mind, right? How do you stimulate your state of mind? Well, doing drugs is one way, right? Doing recreational drugs is one way, but that's not going to work out in the long run, right? Because that's going to hurt your brain. But another way is comes down to the principles, right? The starting point in Think and Grow Rich is having a burning desire. But you can very well elevate your state of mind by having a burning desire, becoming obsessed with what you want, right? That is a great way to get started. And then additionally, right, the state of mind known as faith, right? Seeing what you want is already done right now, right? All of a sudden, your level of thinking is going to elevate, right? It's all about maintaining these states of mind, right? That's where the principle of persistence comes in, right? Can you be persistent in holding that state of mind of what you want until the day you finally get it, right? Emerson, this is a side note, but Emerson said the hardest thing for man to do is the idea of sustained thought, right? The hardest thing for man and woman to do is the idea of sustained thought, right? Can you hold your idea? Can you hold the idea of the end goal long enough until it actually becomes a real thing? Okay, and maybe what I'm saying might sound a little bit out there, but I'm telling you, this makes perfect sense, and it comes down to trust in the process here, right? Trust in the process, right? What I'm saying, comes from Think and Grow Rich, right? The one book that made more millionaires than any other book out there. For me too, it was a little bit out there stuff, but at the end of the day, I just trusted the process. I'm gonna follow through. I'm gonna just read this book until I finally get it. Because Napoleon Hill says, no fewer than 100 times has the secret been revealed on these pages. Right? So I'm just going to trust that, some people understood it, and I'm going to find a way to be one of those people to understand it. So that's a little bit about the sixth sense. It's what, like I said, it's the creative imagination. It's the part of the brain that, may not be like a definitive physical part, but it's the part of the brain that receives the ideas and hunches. Now, that's the first half of the chapter in Think and Grow Rich. Now, the second idea that I'm going to share with you that Napoleon Hill wants to mention as well in this chapter is the idea of building your character through auto-suggestion. Okay, so I'm going to share this is Napoleon Hill's story of how he really built himself, how he really, reinvented who he was through this principle. And it's the idea of the invisible counselors. So let me read this, right? Napoleon Hill talks about in order for Napoleon Hill to be great, he decided that he was going to emulate the great, right? And he did this by studying them and rebuilding his character to take on his traits, right? Tony Robbins says it himself, right? I'm great because I stood on the shoulders of giants, right? I'm great because I stood on the shoulders of giants. What does that mean? I'm great because of the people that I studied. I'm great because of the people that mentored me. I'm great because of the ideas, the personality that I rebuilt simply because of who I surrounded myself with, right? They say you are the average of the 5 individuals that you surround yourself with, right? So one of the cool ideas of this, this is going to seem far-fetched for most people, but one of the cool ways is you can actually rebuild yourself through books. But you can rebuild your character through books and biographies. They don't have to be, living people to help you rebuild your character, right? And what I mean by that is this, right? There's this idea of the invisible counselors. This idea of the invisible counselors that Napoleon Hill talked about, literally creating a mastermind, right? Going back to that principle of the mastermind, he sat down like these people that he looked up to, right? I'm talking about like Emerson, Thomas Paine, Thomas Edison, Abraham Lincoln, Henry Ford, and Andrew Carnegie, and more, right? He ended up having a mastermind of over 50 people that he looked up to. And it was all in his imagination. And what he did was he sat those individuals down. And he, wasn't just a part of this mastermind. He was actually the leader of it. Where he was the leader of this mastermind of all these great minds throughout the history. And he led the conference every time, said, like, my definite purpose is this. How would you go about it? And he would literally talk to his invisible counselors as if they were a real part of their mastermind. And, yes, this was all happening in his imagination, but what this did for him was it allowed him to rebuild his character so that he can start looking at his situation in a different light, right? Dr. Wayne Dyer says it himself, right? In order change the way you look at things, and the things you look at change, right? How would Thomas Edison, look at my situation? How would Andrew Carnegie look at my problem, right? What do I got to do? What state of mind do I need to tap into to understand this? And so Napoleon Hill says, right, the purpose was to rebuild his own character by doing this, right, to rebuild his own character so that it would represent a composite of his imaginary counselors, right? There's this one quote out there that, I'm going to demythify, right? It's like, in order to live a great life, you just got to be yourself, right? They say you just got to be yourself. And as a matter of fact, I would actually disagree with that. I don't think you need to be yourself. I think you need to be your best self. Right? I think you really do need to reinvent yourself to become your best self. And in order to do so, you may need to start studying people that had the things that you want. Right? Start studying. What were their characteristics like? What was their personality like? How can I start to emulate them to become my best self? Right? Every day, how can I show up and be my best self? Right? Because then I can go to sleep at night knowing, I showed up as the best Michael Music that I am. And I can go to sleep knowing that I really did exactly like my best work, right? It showed up with the best state of mind that I can have. And so that's the idea right there, right? I'm talking about rebuilding yourself so that you become your best self. And I know this is a little separate from the Sixth Sense, but it was super important that Napoleon Hill included this part of the chapter in Think and Grow Rich because it just had profound effects on him. Right? It had profound effects on him, being able to look at, whatever business problem, whatever life problem, whatever relationship problem he was going through from the eyes of someone that he really looked up to. That changed everything for him. Okay, so what does it say here? Yeah, the final idea is this, right? Go to your counselors with every difficult problem, right? You don't need to have your mentor in the room with you at all times, right? It doesn't matter. Use your imagination. Have a mastermind. Have an invisible mastermind with the people that you look up to, with the people that have the results that you want, and ask them, whether they're there in person or in your imagination, ask them, like, how would you solve this problem? Maybe sit in their seat and figure out, how would you look at this situation and look at it through their lens? Because then all of a sudden, right, that's how you start getting these ideas that are going to come to you that would not come before, that would not come with your current level of thinking, right? What is it? Einstein said it himself, right? The problems created by the mind of man cannot be solved with that same level of thinking, right? The problems created by the mind of man cannot be solved with that same level of thinking. You're going to need to change your thinking first and foremost to solve whatever problem your mind created. And how do you do that? Well, one of the ways is through the invisible counselors, is through using the mastermind principle, right? This is going to be absolutely essential. This is one of those tools that most people are never going to talk about simply because most people just don't understand this. But, right, if you're willing to be like, okay, it doesn't make sense, but there's something here that kind of resonates, kind of clicks, I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to do it. I don't care if I sound like a fool. I'm willing to do it. And I'll tell you from my personal experience, this has absolutely changed my life. Right? Having the invisible counselors has absolutely changed my life. Okay, so that's the conversation today, right? The sixth sense. We have made it. Right? We have made it to the end of Think and Grow Rich. I want to thank you all for, staying with me on this journey. And the idea here was this, right? The sixth sense, like I said, it's your creative imagination, right? Every question that you ask has an answer. The question is, are you ready to hear that answer? And are you ready to do the work on the plan that the answer that you got, on the answer that you were given, right? It comes down to being ready to receive the answer. Okay, and that's where the sixth sense comes into play. And then additionally, I talked about the idea of the invisible counselors of rebuilding your character through auto suggestion. All right, and that's a really interesting word, right? Auto suggestion, right? Rebuilding your character, obviously reinventing yourself, but through auto suggestion is, I had a cool interview with my mentor around the word auto suggestion, and it really is deep. It's what dictates whether you do the thing or you don't do the thing, whether you talk yourself into it or talk yourself out of it, right? So auto suggestion is a really, really important piece of the puzzle, and I would highly recommend not only studying that chapter but checking out the interview that I had with my mentor Sean about it, because it gets really deep, that idea as well. So anyways, that's the conversation today on your sixth sense. And last piece that I want to leave with you, right? In order to really, tap into the sixth sense, you gotta become a genius. And I don't mean that in an arrogant way. I mean that by saying, like, you gotta master these principles and step up your level of thinking, or step up your level of thinking so that you can actually access parts of your mind that you could not, access before, right? Becoming a genius it's not about, being like Albert Einstein or being like some weird wizard in a wizard tower. It comes down to, can I actually think? Can I actually think? Can I start implementing these principles and start, working on my state of mind, right? That's the most important idea I've ever learned in my life, is working on my state of mind, right? That changes everything. All right. So thank you all for watching. That's the talk today on the sixth sense. We're officially done with the book Think and Grow Rich. I'll still be live tomorrow, same time, same channel, and I will see you all then. Bye, everybody, for now.